You really thought Dad would leave anything to you? My brother Derek leaned back in his chair and laughed. Right there, in the lawyer's office, with our whole family watching. You're not even a real part of this family. My mother sat beside him, silent. She didn't look at me, didn't defend me. That silence told me everything. The lawyer slid the papers forward. I got nothing, not a photo, not a single cent. But they didn't know what was coming. And it all started with a homeless man named Walter and 4 simple words that changed everything. My name is Maya. I'm 27 years old. I work as a bookkeeper at a small insurance agency downtown. Nothing fancy. I sit in a little cubicle, crunch numbers, and go home to my 1-bedroom apartment every night. I don't have a flashy car. I don't post pictures from expensive restaurants. I've never been the kind of person who needs attention. But in my family, that made me invisible. My older brother Derek is 32. He's the success story, the one my mother always talked about at family dinners. The one who took over Dad's construction supply business when Dad got too sick to run it himself. Derek has the big house, the luxury SUV, the wife with the designer bags and the Instagram full of vacation photos. And then there's me, the quiet one, the one who doesn't ask for much. My mother always favored Derek. I knew it growing up. I felt it every birthday, every holiday, every time she looked at him with pride and looked at me like I was just there, an afterthought, a footnote in her perfect family portrait. My dad was different. At least I thought he was. He was quieter, kinder to me when no one else was around. Sometimes he'd slip me $20 and whisper, "Don't tell your mother." Sometimes he'd call me just to check in. He never said "I love you" in front of the others, but I always believed he saw me. I always believed he cared. Maybe I was foolish for believing that, because when he died 3 weeks ago, everything I thought I knew shattered. But here's the thing about me. I wasn't the one with the big house or the fancy title, but I had something my family always underestimated: patience. And I paid attention. Every morning, on my way to work, I pass a little coffee shop near my office. And every morning, there's a man sitting outside on the sidewalk. Older, weathered, thin jacket even in cold weather. His name is Walter. I started giving him change about a year ago. Then I started bringing him muffins, coffee sometimes. He always smiled and said the same thing: "God bless you, sweetheart." And he always looked at me with these strange, knowing eyes, like he saw something in me I didn't even see myself. I thought he was just a kind stranger. I had no idea he was about to crack my family's lies wide open. If you've ever been pushed aside by your own family, subscribe right now and tell me where you're watching from. Because this story is for you. 3 weeks after my father died, we gathered for the reading of his will. The lawyer's office was small, beige walls, a long wooden table, the kind of room where everything feels heavy. I showed up early. I wore my nicest blouse. I sat near the back, trying not to take up too much space. Old habits. Derek walked in like he owned the place. He probably thought he did. His wife trailed behind him, tapping on her phone. My mother sat at the front, tight-lipped, her eyes red from crying, or pretending to. Aunts, uncles, cousins I barely recognized. Everyone was there, and everyone was watching. The lawyer cleared his throat and opened the folder. I'll admit it. I was hopeful. Stupid maybe, but hopeful. My dad and I had those quiet moments, those little looks. I thought maybe, just maybe, he remembered me when it mattered most. He didn't. The lawyer read the will line by line. The house? To Derek and my mother. The business shares? Derek? The savings accounts? Split between them? And me? Nothing. Not a family photo, not a piece of jewelry, not a single word acknowledging I existed. My chest tightened. My hands went cold. Derek turned around and smirked at me. Honestly, you should be thanking us for even inviting you today. I couldn't breathe. My mother said nothing. She just stared at the table like I wasn't even in the room. One of my aunts leaned over to another and whispered, loud enough for everyone to hear. Didn't she drop out of college? Maybe that's why he left her nothing. A few people chuckled. I wanted to disappear. I wanted to scream. I wanted to flip the table and demand to know why I was always the one who got thrown away. But instead, I just sat there, shaking. Then something caught my eye. The date on the will. It was signed 3 weeks before my father died. Right when he was in the hospital. Right when he was barely conscious, hooked up to machines, too weak to even hold a pen. I looked at the lawyer. Can I see the signature? He hesitated, shuffled his papers. Derek cut in before he could answer. What are you going to do, Maya? Sue us? He laughed. You can't even afford a lawyer. More laughter from the table. I stood up. My legs were shaking, but I walked out of that room without looking back. Outside, the cold air hit my face like a slap. I walked fast, past the coffee shop, past the corner where Walter usually sat. He was there, watching me, silent. I didn't stop. I couldn't. That night, I sat alone in my apartment, surrounded by old boxes I'd taken from my dad's house months earlier. Photos, letters, birthday cards he'd sent over the years. I opened one of them, a card from my 21st birthday, and something slipped out, a handwritten note, folded, tucked inside. My hands trembled as I read it. Maya, I've left something important for you. If anything happens, talk to Walter. He knows the truth. I stared at the name. Walter. My heart pounded. I didn't know anyone named Walter, not in my family, not at work. And then I pictured him. The man on the corner. The one I gave change to every morning. The one who always looked at me like he knew something. His name was Walter. A week went by. I tried to push the note out of my mind. Tried to focus on work. Tried to pretend the will reading hadn't gutted me. But my family made sure I couldn't forget. That Saturday night, I was scrolling through Instagram when I saw the photos. My whole family, Derek, his wife, my mother, aunts, uncles, cousins, all gathered at a fancy steakhouse downtown. White tablecloths, wine glasses, steak dinners, everyone smiling. The caption from Derek's wife, celebrating Dad's legacy, family only. No one told me. No one even texted. I sent my mother a message. Why wasn't I invited? Her response came an hour later. It was last minute, sweetheart. Don't be so sensitive. I sat on my couch, eating leftover pasta from a plastic container, and cried. 2 weeks later, I decided to try again. My cousin Brittany was graduating from nursing school. There was a small party at her parents' house. I hadn't been invited, but I showed up anyway. I brought a gift, a nice card. I thought maybe I could reconnect. Maybe things could be different now. They weren't. I walked into the kitchen to get a drink, and Derek's wife was already there. She looked me up and down and said, I don't know why you keep showing up. You're not even in the will. You're basically a stranger. I froze. Behind me, I heard someone laugh. A cousin, an aunt. I wasn't sure who. Then Derek walked in, beer in hand. Let it go, Maya, he said. Dad didn't think you were worth it. Maybe it's time you accept that. I left before the cake was cut. I sat in my car in the driveway for 20 minutes, shaking so hard I couldn't drive. A few days later, my mother called. She was crying, sounding desperate. Maya, honey, I need your help. Your father's office is a mess. Papers everywhere. I don't know what to do. You were always so organized. I should have said no. I knew she only called when she needed something, but I wanted to believe it meant something. I wanted her to want me. So I said yes. I drove over that weekend. I spent hours sorting through boxes, files, receipts, but something felt off. Folders were missing. Financial records from the last 5 years, gone. The computer's hard drive had been wiped. Shredded paper filled the trash cans. When I asked my mother about it, she snapped at me. Don't go through things that aren't your business. That's when I realized. She didn't call me to help. She called me to clean up their mess. They were destroying evidence, and they wanted me to do it for them. As I was packing up to leave, I noticed a folder tucked behind a file cabinet. Dusty. Forgotten. The label read W. Garrett, Termination 2019. I didn't read it, but I took it. Something was very wrong in this family, and I was going to find out what. The next morning, I walked to the coffee shop. Walter was sitting in his usual spot, thinner than the last time I saw him. His jacket was torn at the shoulder. I handed him a muffin and sat down beside him on the cold concrete. He didn't say, "God bless you," this time. He looked at me and said, "You finally read your father's note, didn't you?" My heart stopped. "How do you know about that?" He took a slow breath. "Because I'm the one who told him to write it." I stared at him. This homeless man on the corner. This stranger I'd given spare change to for a year. He knew my father. "I used to be your father's accountant," he said. "For over a decade, I managed the books for the business, kept everything in order." I couldn't speak. "4 years ago, your brother accused me of stealing. He told your father I'd been embezzling money for years. I was fired, blacklisted, lost my license, my apartment, my wife left, my kids stopped calling." His voice cracked. "I didn't steal anything, sweetheart. Your brother did, and I have proof." I felt the ground tilt beneath me. "Why didn't you come forward?" He laughed bitterly. "Who's going to believe a homeless man over a family like yours?" He stood slowly, groaning from stiff joints. "Meet me tomorrow. There's a diner on 5th Street. I'll show you everything." What they didn't know, what none of them knew, was that the man they destroyed still had everything he needed to destroy them back. And now, so did I. The diner was nearly empty when I arrived. Walter was already there, sitting in a booth in the back corner. He looked different, cleaner. He'd shaved. Someone had given him a fresh shirt. In front of him was a worn leather briefcase. I sat across from him. My hands were trembling. "Your brother's been skimming money from the company for years," he said quietly. "Small amounts at first, then bigger. By the time your father started noticing something was wrong, Derek panicked. He opened the briefcase and slid a stack of papers toward me. Bank statements, emails, printed spreadsheets. I kept copies of everything before they fired me. I knew one day I'd need them. I flipped through the pages, my stomach turning. There it was. Transfers to Derek's personal accounts, labeled consulting fees. Payments to a notary I didn't recognize. Emails from Derek instructing someone to handle the signature on legal documents. "The will," I whispered. Walter nodded. "Your father never signed that will. He couldn't. He was barely conscious. Derek paid someone to forge it. And your mother knew." I felt like I was drowning. Walter reached across the table and grabbed my arm, gently but firmly. "You have a choice now, Maya. You can walk away and let them win, or you can fight." He paused. "There's someone I want you to meet, a forensic accountant. Her name's Denise. She works for a legal aid nonprofit now. She's one of the best, and she owes me a favor." 2 days later, I met Denise at her office. She was sharp, no nonsense. She took one look at the documents and said, "This is fraud, and it's sloppy." Within a week, she had everything mapped out. Forged signatures on the will, money trails leading straight to Derek, emails proving he bribed a notary to witness a document while my father was sedated and unresponsive. "This is enough to take to the district attorney," she said, "but you'll need to decide when to move." I didn't have long to decide, because Derek was planning a grand relaunch party for the business, rebranded in his name. He'd invited press, business partners, extended family. My mother posted about it online, so proud of my son, finally getting what he deserves. They thought they'd won. They had no idea. Then one evening, I checked my mail, a thick envelope, return address from a law firm I didn't recognize. Inside was a cease and desist letter from Derek's attorney. "You are hereby warned to stop harassing members of the family. Any further contact will result in legal action." He was trying to silence me before I could speak. That's when I knew. I couldn't wait any longer. If I didn't act now, they'd bury the truth forever. The party was held at a rented venue downtown. High ceilings, chandeliers, a banner that read, Garrett Construction, New Era, in bold letters. 50 guests mingled with champagne glasses, business associates, local press, family members who hadn't spoken to me in years. I walked in wearing a simple black dress, no jewelry, no flash. Denise was behind me carrying a folder. Derek spotted me from across the room. His smile vanished. He marched over. What the hell are you doing here? I came to congratulate you, I said calmly. Security, he shouted. 2 men in suits started walking toward me. I didn't move. You might want to hear what I have to say first. Something in my voice made him stop. Maybe it was the fact that I wasn't shaking anymore. I stepped forward, toward the front table where the press was gathered. Derek followed, hissing under his breath. Maya, I swear to God, if you— 4 years ago, I said, loud enough for everyone to hear, you destroyed an innocent man to cover up what you were doing. The room went quiet. You stole from Dad's company for years. And when he started asking questions, you blamed the man who kept the books honest. Derek forced a laugh. She's delusional. She's been jealous of me her whole life. And 3 weeks before Dad died, I continued, you forged his will. Gasps rippled through the crowd. I nodded at Denise. She opened the folder and handed me the first stack of papers. Emails, I said, holding them up. From you, instructing a notary to handle the signature on the will while Dad was unconscious in the hospital. Derek's face went white. I pulled out the next document. Bank statements. Transfers to your personal account. Labeled consulting fees. You weren't consulting. You were stealing. I held up the final piece. A side-by-side comparison. Dad's real signature and the one on the will. They don't match. A reporter in the front row pulled out her phone and started recording. My mother rushed forward. Maya, stop this right now. I turned to her. You knew, you watched him forge that will, you helped destroy an innocent man, and you didn't say a word. Her face crumbled. She couldn't even deny it. Derek lunged toward me. You have no idea what you're doing. And then the doors opened. Walter walked in. He was clean-shaven, dressed in a pressed suit, standing tall. The room went silent again. My name is Walter Garrett, he said. His voice was steady, clear. I was the accountant for this company for 12 years. 4 years ago, I was framed and discredited by this man. He pointed at Derek. I kept records of everything, every transfer, every email, every lie, and I've already submitted them to the state attorney's office. Derek's wife grabbed her purse and headed for the side exit. He shouted after her, Where are you going? She didn't answer. Derek spun toward the crowd. She's making this up. This man he's homeless, he's nobody. But no one was listening to him anymore. One of my aunts, the same one who had mocked me at the will reading, stepped forward. I saw the papers, Derek. We all did. She looked at me. You're done. 5 minutes later, the police arrived. Derek was escorted out in handcuffs, screaming that it was all a setup. My mother stood frozen by the dessert table, surrounded by whispers, and I just stood there. I didn't cry. I didn't smile. I just watched. 3 weeks later, I sat in the same lawyer's office, but this time, I was the one signing papers. The forged will was thrown out. My father's real wishes, outlined in a document Walter had kept for years, were finally honored. I received my rightful share of the estate, including partial ownership of the business. Derek was charged with fraud, forgery, and financial exploitation. His trial was pending. His wife filed for divorce before the arraignment. My mother wasn't charged, but she was publicly disgraced. Relatives stopped calling. Friends disappeared. I haven't spoken to her since. As for Walter, I used part of my inheritance to help him get back on his feet. A small apartment, new credentials, a job offer at Denise's nonprofit. The day he moved into his new place, he stood in the doorway and looked at me. Your dad always said you were the strong one, he said. He just didn't know how to say it out loud. I cried. But this time, it wasn't from pain. It was relief. A few weeks later, I walked past the old coffee shop. There was someone new sitting on the corner. A woman. Young, tired eyes, worn jacket. I stopped, reached into my pocket, handed her a few dollars. She looked up at me and smiled. God bless you. I smiled back. And as I walked away, I thought about everything that had happened, everything I'd lost, everything I'd found. For once, their silence didn't hurt me. It freed me. I didn't need their approval. I never did. I just needed the truth. If you've ever helped a stranger and had it come back to you in the most unexpected way, I want to hear about it. Family doesn't always mean blood. Sometimes it's the people who show up when everyone else walks away. Your story deserves to be heard. Share it with us in the comments. And if this story moved you, please subscribe. I read every single comment, and I can't wait to hear where you're watching from. I'm Maya. And this was the moment I learned that kindness always comes back, even when you least expect it.